Okay. So speaking of voter verification,
Yeah.
Chuck Muth has filed some challenges with the Secretary of State to clean up the voter rolls. His Pigpen Project, as he's called it, and he's reached out to all the registrar voters around the state. But I just read his blog from a while back where he's actually complimenting you and thanking you for actually working with him. He's just a citizen following, I think it's, what is it, NRS 293.535,
535.
which allows any citizen to actually kind of find out, get involved in the voter verification process. So I think Chuck's truly, even though he's a conservative, he's really trying to clean up the rolls, as every state is. But you guys have kind of reached out. You guys have kind of been working together. So tell us a little bit about how Chuck has helped or hindered. I don't know, either way. But.
Yeah, so the 535 challenges is in NRS. And so anybody that can basically say they have personal knowledge of voters that do no longer live there and are attesting under penalty or perjury that they know and they have this personal knowledge can file a written challenge. So yes, Chuck reached out really to our county manager. We had a phone call with the county manager, myself, and a few others, and I think that call went well. We said that we had these challenges that he had submitted and that we're reviewing them. We've done our review. We are simply waiting now on the Secretary of State to make a final determination if it meets the spirit of the NRS. If it does, then we'll be processing these challenges. And what that means, though, is we're sending a letter to that voter saying you've been challenged to their address and an AD2 card, which is basically a voter address confirmation card. So it doesn't just get processed that anybody can say, this person doesn't live there, take them off the roll. No. There's a whole process to follow. It's interesting when he gave us his, I think it was 87 challenges or so, more than half, we've already started that process of sending a card.
Oh, good.
So there are some that he caught that we didn't catch yet, but we would have caught them. It is kind of making the process a little faster in that regard because he's able to do things that right now we can't based on a challenge. But we have to look at every single one of them and ensure they're valid challenges before we would ever process. We don't want to be disenfranchising and knocking people off a voter roll for no good reason. So when we look at his challenges too, we want to make sure that they're not all Republicans or they're not all Democrats and he's focusing on one or the other. No, and they're not. We reviewed and it's a mix of folks. So.
And is that process, you do this, I mean, in non-election years, you go through and purge your own list at this point, right?
We have had a very strong renewed focus on voter registration, bulk list maintenance. Since I took not so much office, but since I was appointed, we've canceled and inactivated combined over 70,000 people in Washoe County. And as of a few weeks ago, if you look at the voter rolls, they went down 31,333, I think it was, in regards to inactivating those voters who did not respond or take an action since they didn't vote in the presidential preference primary, they didn't vote in the primary, nor the general. So they had no voter activity and they didn't respond to a petition or something, they didn't take an own action. Therefore, we inactivated them.
Okay.
That's 10%.
Wow.
Of our voter roll.
That's huge.
So
yeah.
We are actively taking action bulk, and then we do daily list maintenance too. As people say, hey, I'm moving to Story County or I've moved out of state, as long as the voter has to let us know too, right?
Yeah.
And that's where some things get stale. If they don't notify or they don't put a change of address into the post office, we are thinking they still live here, right? And so we will catch them eventually if they don't vote in 2 federal elections, and if they don't vote recently. There's certain things in NRS that we can do, but we have to wait that time period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. So we were talking on how you're cleaning up the rolls, and one of the things you said is the Secretary of State's office had to kind of bless whatever you and Chuck Muth were working on. So what kind of autonomy do you have on your own voter rolls?
Yeah, let me clear that up. So in regards to Secretary of State, we're looking for guidance, just ensuring that we are meeting the spirit of NRS. But yes, ultimately, it would be my decision based on how the law, and it looks like at this point, he's met the 4 corners and checked all the boxes. Right now, we are leaning to process these challenges, but I just want to check in with the chief elections official of the state of Nevada, because this decision that I would make, if I'm the first to make it, could have not so much ripple effects, but effects across the state.
Yeah.
You know, that other challenges potentially would be accepted.
Okay. And how many voters register every day in Washoe County? Do you have a number?
We have about 300 to 500 different changes. So, meaning daily list maintenance. So someone says, "Oh, I'm a Republican today, and tomorrow I'm a Democrat." So those are list maintenance changes.
Okay.
Move-ins and move-outs. I guess you could just say probably around 200, 250. But it's constant, and it's 365 days a year. Where people think about voting. Yes, voting is one aspect of this major department. But the other is list maintenance and voter registration, which is a full-time job. And when we're not in election, the entire staff is dedicated to voter registration activities.
Well, you guys were talking about how a couple of years ago you only had like 6 full-time staff.
Yeah.
And the county keeps growing, and our voter registration keeps growing, mostly because of the motor voter. So you're now getting to be fully staffed and getting ready for the next election.
Yes, we are finally fully staffed, which I'm very proud of. The staff. What is the saying? Hire slow, fire fast, right? So we hire very slow, very methodical, making sure the right people are in the right positions. And I feel like we've built a very good team to have sustainability. One thing that hasn't happened in Washoe County, unfortunately, a lot of ROVs have turned over for right or wrong. And I think I mentioned this last interview. You know, my goal is to do 4 or 5 more years here, sustain this department, have some credibility, confidence, public confidence in our operation before I retire. So that's my goal.
Well, I appreciate your being willing to do these interviews, and I know anybody can call you and talk to you. I really appreciate your transparency, and really I just appreciate what you're doing and how you're just out here talking about the process. You're opening up a lot of doors that I don't think a lot of us look through very often. So I really appreciate your being so transparent.
I'll come back anytime you need me, Randy.
Well, I'd like to do what I'd love to do is have you and Chuck Muth on maybe in January, and we can kind of talk about that voter, and because I think anybody can get engaged in helping clean up our voter rolls. I owned a condo, and I had several people living there, and I would go and see the mailbox, and there would be a voter registration for the person that lived there 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So unless they're, so voters need to do a better job of letting you know that they moved.
Yes.
But I think any of us that really are concerned about the integrity of our system, how to get better engaged. So I think maybe having you and Chuck on to have that discussion in January would be fun.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. We'll be right back after this.